our farmer development series, which is designed to bring together Arizona growers, food system partners, organizations. We're here to share knowledge, tools, resources, stories that strengthen our local food system. Judith Bullock, as I said, is joining us today. We're going to talk about blending practical on-the-ground farming knowledge in the context of grant writing. Judith is going to offer a strategic view to help farmers see the financial, ecological, and historical potential of their operations. A little background, Judith Bullock serves on the Administrative Council for the Western SARE, or Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, which is a USDA-funded program that provides grants to advance innovation in sustainable ranching and farming. As a veteran USDA grant chair and technical reviewer, she applies her background in rhetoric and law to help producers navigate the complex landscape of federal funding. Judith is an Arizona specialty crops producer operating near the Grand Canyon, where she bridges the gap between agricultural policy and high desert production. So we are very lucky to have somebody here with us today who understands not only the grant landscape, but also understands it from the perspective of the producer, of the farmer, people actually out there doing that work. So with that, we will transition to Judith's presentation. And if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to click or to come off mute or raise your hand and we will call on you. Or if you don't feel comfortable asking questions publicly, you can drop those questions right in the chat. Erica and I will be monitoring the chat and we will ask those questions to Judith on your behalf at a natural pause. So with that, we'll pass it on over to Judith. You can take it away.
Thank you. It's a great pleasure to be with you all today. And I just returned from Reno, Nevada yesterday, where I was with the Administrative Council, where we were selecting grant proposals in the farmer, rancher, and research and education. And it's always great to see all the groundbreaking and innovative ideas that people have going out there. And it's always a great privilege to connect with growers through their proposals. But I always feel like if applicants understood the big ideas and enduring understandings behind grant writing, that we would be successful in more proposals. So I'm hoping to share these big ideas and enduring understandings with you today. I actually want to talk to you about the forbidden fruit today. It's actually pretty intriguing and applies to all the different projects that we'd like to do. William A. Taylor was the highly qualified chief of the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Bureau of Plant Industry way back in 1911, and he is actually the man who made the black currant, Ribes nigrum, forbidden. Taylor, back in the day, was a scientist faced with a massive problem: white pine blister rust. This fungus was killing the timber industry, and Taylor discovered that black currants were the alternate host that allowed the fungus to spread. And actually, there is a man named Greg Quinn who is responsible for single-handedly re-legalizing the black currant. His efforts led to the lifting of the ban starting in New York in 2003, which paved the way for this forbidden fruit to return to the American soil. Greg Quinn has a talk on YouTube about how he single-handedly brought back the currant into American agriculture, and this man is an amazing powerhouse who inspires me. I want to tell you about how the white pine blister rust works, and then you'll see how this connects to what you are doing on your farm, and how we all need to learn as we go. This is a two-home fungus. This fungus cannot jump from one pine tree to another. It needs a rest station to finish its life cycle. It starts on a pine and it travels via the wind to a currant leaf where it multiplies and changes form and then travels back to the pine to kill it. And maybe as some of you look at this picture, you'll say, hey, I've seen that in my growing area. Those of you who are in Camp Verde and down there will have seen this on a tree yourself in your own backyard. And maybe you can understand what that is now and come to see why the U.S. Department of Agriculture does things the way it does sometimes. So Taylor decided that by ripping out the currants, the government could break the cycle. And today we have rust resistant varieties of black currants, but the forbidden reputation stuck. Let's go on. The solution that the government decided upon was that black currants must go. A ghost in the garden, and a taste we forgot. To save the lumber, Taylor enacted a federal ban. Millions of blackcurrant bushes were ripped out, and for 55 years, the black currant was a ghost in the American garden. Because of the ban, most of us did not grow up eating black currants. While the rest of the world was enjoying jams, juices, and medicines, they completely disappeared from the American palate. Because of the ban, we lost a whole generation of knowledge. We stopped planting them, we stopped cooking with them, and eventually we forgot they even existed. This is what happens when old ideas keep a good thing out of our hands for too long. You might be wondering why I would start a grant talk with a 100-year-old ban. Because William Taylor's ban created a lot of caked on mud in our thinking. Long after we developed rust resistant cultivars like Titania, many people still think currants are illegal or even too risky to grow. They are still plowing around the stump of that old law. And in grant writing, we face the same thing. Many producers think that certain ideas are forbidden or too way out, or maybe you feel like the paperwork is an impenetrable forest. And my goal today is to show you that with the right ideas, we can overturn old beliefs and fund your most creative niche ideas wherever you are. And I want you to think about this as a crop rotation for the brain. We're letting the old, tired ideas of, I can't get funded, rest. And we're planning a new season of possibilities. Because wow, farming will challenge you and take a hold of your creativity. And I know that you will find a way. There are many, many grant possibilities that are available to you. Some of you have very small ideas and you're just getting started. And some of you have a grand ambition out there. And I know you're going to be pursuing that. And I don't want you to hold yourself back in your ideas. So today I'm presenting the Arizona Dream Ladder for 2026. And I want to tell you about many opportunities that are available from small to large. And somewhere you're going to have this aha moment and say, that's where I want to go. That's uh, so I want to start with the tactical seed. This is the Flagstaff Food Link Grower Grants. They are just $1,000, and the dream is immediate small scale fixes for the current season. So you can apply for this grant in the springtime and then execute your plan, whatever it is, expanding a little bit, or maybe getting a wash station or something that you need. Maybe there is a high tunnel that you need that just needs to be added to your farm, and it can be something small. This grant I like to call the New Start. AgWest is an agricultural lending cooperative that a lot of you have probably never heard of. They aren't a government agency like the U.S. Department of Agriculture or the Natural Resources Conservation Service. Instead, they are a member owned financial institution specifically for farmers, ranchers, and agribusinesses, and their cap is $15,000 if you are just starting out. And the reason that they give out this grant is because they are hoping one day that you'll expand your business perhaps with an agricultural loan or an operating loan through them. So they are holding out this grant to form a relationship with you, the producer. I like to call this one the shield. This is from the Natural Resource Conservation Service. We call it the NRCS, but I don't want to snow everyone with the TMA or too many acronyms. This is the Environmental Quality Incentives Program, EQIP. It's a high tunnel cost share program. Can go from around 5,000 to around 15,000 and up. And the dream is defeating the Arizona climate by extending the growing season. And the use is for high tunnels for the forbidden fruit. Or also, it could be for livestock watering facilities. Maybe your passion is animals. Equip is the primary tool for water infrastructure on ranches and farms. Here, the Natural Resource Conservation Service, they are the people and the brains, and Equip is the program where the money comes from. The deadline is in rolling batches, so if you miss one deadline, there is always a new chance for your hopes and dreams. This is my hometown right here, and I call this the grant for the inquisitive researcher. This is from Western Sayre, Sustainable Agriculture, Research and Education. This is the Farmer Rancher Grant. It goes up to $35,000. And the dream is you are acting as the scientist on your own land to prove a new method. 3 or 4 producers team up, so you'll be getting together with your neighbors and knowing them in a whole new way. I really like this one. Western Sayre also has one that is the local education uh, development grant where you might be training the trainer, where you can get together with some other people and you can teach them about what you know. And Western Sayre, Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, will help you with that. As a member for the administration, excuse me, as a member for the administrative council for our Western Sayre, I just completed reviewing many proposals for this program, and I am always humbled and amazed by all the unique ideas presented through this program. And I highly recommend that you join hands with our Western Sayre. This is an outstanding organization funded through a cooperative agreement with the USDA's National Institute of Food and Agriculture. Maybe you see some of their emails, NIFA, and we can hook you up with all sorts of ideas, solutions, and experts and peers to make your dream a reality because you are not alone out there. I know sometimes you work in isolation and you feel like you're the only one with that passion where you live. But wow, there are a lot of us out here with our hopes and dreams in action. This is the market founder from vendor to missionary. Excuse me, visionary. As former chair of this program, I can tell you that reviewers are looking for administrative literacy. They want to see that you aren't just selling carrots, but you are building a direct to consumer engine. Anna, you were talking about getting involved with CSA. This is another way to get involved with the public. Starting a market, I can tell you, is the most rewarding crop you'll ever grow. Maybe it won't be through the CSA. Maybe you want to start a market where you live. And it's not just about stalls, it's about community infrastructure. It requires a 25% match, and I'll talk about that in a little bit. So start small if you need to, and you'll have some skin in the game here. But the market could start out tiny. You know, we were talking earlier about maybe 3 producers being involved. This program provides a lot of funding, but it only has to start with 2 producers. You could get together with your neighbor and start a market right where you live. And connecting with your own community and region around local food is the most rewarding experience you'll ever have as a farmer, guaranteed. I wrap my whole production schedule around local markets because that is where all the magic happens. You'll meet people that you never knew were out there and serve the community and touch people's lives in a way that you'll see your farm in the context that it really is in. Because although we work a lot in isolation, in the end, it's about getting those products to market and meeting all those beautiful people out there. And if you want a life you can hang your hat on, the markets are it. This is called the Brand Builder. I was actually chair for this program last summer, and it was a great honor and privilege to participate in this program. There were 60 chairpersons besides me and over 800 reviewers. So you get to see the size of American agriculture in the West. As I recall, the panel managers had a midweek therapy session for all the chairs just to get us through. It is the most labor intensive and challenging review process that I am ever a part of, and I love it, and I look forward to doing that again this summer. So many exciting projects and farm projects, and when you apply for the value added program, you get to get out there and strut your stuff in your grant proposal and let us know what it is that you want to take to market. This is a really fascinating grant program, and don't leave this one out of your repertoire. I like to call this one the systemic anchor. This is the heavy hitter that creates long term stability for the entire community. Zero match for the equipment track makes this the most powerful tool in the shed for buying a cooling van or a tractor. This is another program I review for with the Agricultural Marketing Service, AMS. You can get the equipment you need to make your farm work actually possible when you go to upscale. And some of you are just starting out, but not very long away when you get going, you realize we could go bigger. That sounds like a lot of money, but bigger systems can be expensive, and this grant can get you there. I like to call this the golden triangle. A three-legged stool is the smallest stool that you can make and have it all stand up. The core philosophy here is every successful proposal must convince the reviewer of three specific things. So I've wanted to go through this in more detail. If one is missing, the stool falls over. First of all, you want to explain to the reviewers that the problem is important. You aren't just asking for money, you are solving a gap in the Arizona food system. So it's not just about your farm, like the ghost of the forbidden fruit, where you want to bring something back that hasn't happened before. And second, you want to persuade reviewers that the solution that you've come up with is sound, not a pipe dream, backed by data like rust resistant black currant varieties. And third, you want to let people know that you are qualified to do what you do. And this is where you flex your operational competency. You have the experience, the farm, and the sweat equity, and you need to convince the reviewers that you're the one to do this and that you understand your own farm. And actually, nobody understands your farm and your little edge of agriculture like you do. So, farmers in general are very persuasive when they come forward. I like to call this grant speak, how to talk to the funders. Sometimes we feel like they're just invisible and we're kind of jumping at the meat, not talking to anybody. But when you are writing a grant, you aren't just asking for a personal favor, you're telling them why your farm is a good investment. And you can use these common sense justifications. Common sense, don't over explain. If your crops are cooking in the Arizona sun, just tell us that. It's too hot at my farm. My crops are burning up. The problem is obvious once you point it out, but you've got to really state exactly this is the problem. And nobody knows what that problem is like you know, because you're out there breaking your back every day trying to solve it. And you can really come forward with great sincerity. And then moving past the obstacle, farmers have been stuck doing things the old way because they didn't have the tools. So the grant is a tractor that pulls the old stump out of the way so the whole town can move forward. And when your neighbors see what you are doing, they're going to want to do it too. And again, I say we work a lot in isolation, but we're really not alone because if you're out there and your crops are cooking, your neighbor's crops are also cooking in the sun. And the solutions that you will find, they will use, and they're your partners too. This is again on how to talk to funders. Building to last. This isn't just for today's lunch. You're building a farm business that will still be helping the community 5 or 10 years from now. So think about your grant proposal as a long term investment and then show them the modern way. Talk to reviewers about how we used to think X, but now we know why. For example, we used to think that black currants were a threat, but modern science now shows they're a great safe crop for Arizona. Perhaps you are familiar with e-collars for tracking cattle. Now we use e-ear tags for sheep. You can't actually use an e-collar for sheep because their wool prevents them from feeling any kind of signal or shock from a collar. And I always imagine their wool catching on fire and having all these flaming sheep running around. The horror, the horror. But anyway, you can now track your cattle and your sheep right from your cell phone. Tell the funders exactly what problem you have, what solution would make your farm work, and why you are the person who could actually get that done. And this particular tag here communicates with a satellite. Imagine the sheep to the satellite to your cell phone. We're doing things a lot differently now. And that's why I love being involved with Western SARE, because I find out all those new ways of moving on in agriculture. And a lot of the things that you're doing right now that are really hurtful uh, could be done very differently with the right money. This is the
Yeah.
call for proposals. This is the most important document that you will ever read in your grant writing mission. The call for proposals, or the CFP. Sometimes it's called a request for proposals, whatever the acronym is. This is your roadmap to the grant. Be sure that you know it like a lover and read it all the way through. Don't skip parts of it, and pay close attention to each piece. This talks about the eligibility. Are you allowed to apply? Is the project that you are doing going to be a good fit? If you're finding that you're having to sort of twist up your operation and stuff it into the pigeonhole of this grant, find a different grant. You want to find the call for proposals where you read it and you recognize your farm in that proposal. This call for proposals, or the CFP, talks about what the government actually wants to buy. And I'll get into that a little more in a bit. And also, there is a scoring rubric that tells you how to get yes from the reviewer. Reading the field, the call for proposals. When the government or another funding organization is offering a grant, they are buying impact, not just stuff. So we reviewers don't care about the shiny red paint on the new tractor. We care about what that tractor does for the state of Arizona. So in your proposal, you don't want to say something like, I want to buy a $50,000 tractor. You want to say, what? Good phrasing. I am requesting $50,000 for equipment. Why? To increase local vegetable production by 40%, filling a gap in our local food desert. Tell people exactly what that tractor could do for Arizona. Here are some common purchases in the rungs of the Arizona Dream Ladder. Funders are buying a result, not just buying equipment. The reviewer doesn't care about the brand of your cooling unit, they care about the why. For example, this item is a $10,000 walk in freezer, and what the funders are actually buying is 1,200 pounds of food that won't go to waste this summer. So the message is, in your budget, always tie the price tag to the public benefit, not just for your farm, but what will the people who are buying food at the farmers market be getting out of this cooler? Tell us exactly what the public benefit will be, because these monies aren't offered so much to the individual as they are to perform a public good, because a lot of them are made with taxpayers' money, and so we want to see that the taxpayer is getting a good bang for their buck. And don't be frightened by cost share and matching. Sometimes that's kind of hard to understand, but I'm going to tell you exactly how it works. In simple terms, a cost share or match means that the government isn't paying for 100% of the project. They want to see that the producer is also investing in the success of the idea. Cost share and matching, here's one I call the split. Think of it like a partnership. If a grant has a 50-50 cost share, the total project costs $20,000, the government pays $10,000, and you contribute $10,000. And this could also be on a much smaller scale. This is really important for applicants to understand. Most important, you don't always need to have $10,000 in the bank. Maybe some of you are small operations and you're going, ooh, I don't have that. You can often use what is called in-kind match. Your labor is an in-kind match. The hours you spend building that high tunnel or planting those currants have a dollar value. Your equipment, if you use your own tractor for the project, the rental value of that tractor can count toward your match. Or, for example, your land. Sometimes the value of the space being used for growing or research can be part of the contribution. So there are a lot of things that you could bring to the table for those matching grants that aren't necessarily money. And that really helps those of us with smaller operations where we might not have the cash, but by golly, we've got our labor for sure every day. And we have whatever equipment we have on the farm, and we've got the land that we work on. And let's, one of my goals for you to learn today is to get the big idea behind grants and grant funding. Because if you knew the big idea, then every grant proposal that you look at could be more meaningful and you could be more successful. So, why do funders do this? The government or another funder uses cost sharing to make their limited budget go further. If they only paid 100% for every project, they could only help half as many farmers. By asking for a match, they ensure that the producer is fully committed, number one, to making the project work. So don't let a match requirement scare you away from a big opportunity. Your time and your expertise and the tools you already own and your land are already valuable assets. And in the eyes of a reviewer, all that sweat equity we put in, that is just as good as cash in the bank. So don't think that just because you're broke and you're struggling as a farmer, that there's nothing you have to bring to those cost share programs. Those are also for you. Again, I want to share those big ideas and enduring understandings with you so that you know why behind the grant so that you can fulfill the what of the application. So this is a shopping list by grant type, and I want to tell you what it is that the government or funder is really buying from you when they offer that money. It's not just out of the goodness of their hearts, they're actually purchasing something. And this is the NRCS, Natural Resources Conservation Service. They are doing a conservation buy. And what they are buying by giving money to you for your farm is they are buying saved water, healthier soil, and protected wildlife. Since I was just in Reno with the Western SARE funding grant proposals, as a member of the administrative council for our Western SARE, I can tell you that we are buying an answer to a question. Can this specific fruit grow in the high desert? Can these mushrooms be used to increase farmer rancher profits in the West? Can this medication be used to help calves that are struggling through wildfire? So this is the knowledge buy, Western Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education, and there are farmer rancher grants and local education and demonstration grants where we are buying an answer to a problem. I talked about this one earlier uh, in the value added producer grant, the one with our weekly therapy sessions to get us through this huge program. Value added producer grant through the Agricultural Marketing Service. They are buying a way for your farm to make more money by processing raw goods into project products like jams or dried goods. Could be beef. This particular slide is blue agave or agave tequilana, the source of tequila and mezcal. I'm actually allergic to alcohol. It makes my nose red and I fall down. But some adventurous growers are opening up new markets and new profits through blue agave marketing right here in Arizona. So if you see those crops out there, it's on. This is the Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Grant. I like to call this the connection buy. Resilient Food Systems Infrastructure Grant. Uh, these folks are buying a stronger bridge, transport, and storage between the farm and the kitchen table. So you might see grant proposals being accepted for refrigeration trucks, cooling vans, ways to get food safely from the farm to the farmer's market, or from the farm to the table, or to the local stores, or to the local CSA, eggs being moved. I like to call this the allowable versus unallowable, the yes and the no list. Kind of like when you're a kid and you ask your parents for things, you already know what they're going to give you. Every call for proposals has a section that tells you exactly what you can and cannot put in your shopping cart with your grant money. So they're going to let you know. Some things are never allowed and some things will be just fine, but you need to know what those things will be. And I hope to give you the big idea and enduring understanding of what things are allowed and what are not allowed. On the yes list, things that are usually allowed that nobody would blink an eye at in the grant world, specialized equipment, commercial dehydrators. Maybe you want to make local local food plants into tea, a cooling van to keep your vegetables and fruits cold, packing lines, washing stations, how are you going to clean up your vegetables to get them to market? Project specific labor, maybe you want to hire some of your neighbors or even a specialist to help with the grant work and the supplies that are directly tied to the project. So, packaging, egg cartons, the labels that will go on them. Maybe there's a specialized bag that you want to put your things into, special seeds that you want to use. The no list, these are the red flags that the reviewers are always going to kick about. You wouldn't want to be buying land or personal property, not general use items like the pickup truck that you want to go and get your groceries in. You can't get home electronics like a laptop that you're going to use yourself. You can't generally buy everyday tools. Probably not paying off old debt or doing construction on your private home. These would be things that are going to be used for that government or funding interest. So you might be wondering where that shopping list is. Uh, Look for these specific headings in the grant document. This is the no list. Funding restrictions, allowable and unallowable costs, project priorities. These are in that all important call for proposals or the request for applications. Sometimes it has a different name, but it is the guiding document. The call for proposals is like a handshake between the grant program and the applicant, the agreement of what they must do and what you must do. So they're going to promise to do certain things on their end, and you're going to do what you promised as well. Focus on the yes to get to the yes. And I want to really emphasize with AI being used sometimes to generate proposals. And I'm not saying unless the call for proposals specifically forbids that. Sometimes people will write their whole grant and then spin it through AI to make sure that it exactly matches the call for proposals. But whatever you are doing, uh, do it with integrity, be honest to become great, because we do see proposals where, for example, when research needs to be cited, some people are just making a mock research proposal that never existed, or sometimes there are some sort of slimy things going on out there. And we've seen so many proposals that we immediately recognize that as not really being legitimate. So, don't try to write your way around the call for proposals thinking that it would gain you some advantage. What we're really looking for is people who are honest with integrity, that have the sincerity to pull off a really difficult, challenging project, and don't try to go around those things. Be honest to become great. If the rules say that they won't buy a tractor, don't try to sneak a tractor into the budget by calling it something else, or we're going to buy all the parts and put it together and then we're going to have it anyway, because we see those things all the time. Instead, look at the call for proposals and see what we will buy. Maybe we won't buy the tractor, but we will buy the refrigerated trailer that the tractor pulls. So find out what you can use the grant for and focus on the yes to get to the yes. And it doesn't have to be this book, but find one of those books on building a sustainable business. uh, Before you apply for a grant, invest in really creating a farm plan for yourself. Maybe you feel like you already know what to do, and I'm sure you do. But you'd be surprised at the things that you can learn about yourself and your project, your land and your family and the future. And what you learn about your land and your life will make your grant proposal so much more persuasive to reviewers, because I'm sort of reaching through the applicant trying to envision their farm, and when the farmer has a really clear view, it comes through in the proposal. For example, and I'm just throwing this out there, but 60% of farms have no plan to transition the farm to the next generation. And it's a huge concern for us in Western SARE, sustainable agriculture, research, and education. Think of all the farms that are just going to collapse in the near future. And it can be things like, there are 4 children inheriting the farm, and One of those children wants the farm to continue, and the other three just want to cash out. And what to do about those kinds of things? What will happen for the next generation of the farm? So reach out in time just as far as you can, and find out things like which months does your farm earn the most money, and where the gaps are, and what you're going to do about those gaps. So as you plan for your farm, you'll see those things that will be of real value to you. And I'll just throw this out here for you. The number one reason that I reject a proposal is because it doesn't have smart objectives, and I'm going to tell you what smart objectives are and give you an example of them, because we need to know exactly where the money is going. And like I said, this is the number one reason that proposals fall apart. And this is very easy to do if you know what it is, but no one will ever tell you this is what we want, but it is what we want. In the grant world, if you can't count it, it didn't happen. Reviewers are looking for a way to have accountability. We are often not there on your farm. We can't visit every farm. So we're looking for accountability on paper. We want to see that you have a yardstick to measure your success. And the best way to do this is by using SMART objectives. And these are going to be specific. What exactly are you going to do? They need to be measurable. How will we count your success? Will it be in pounds, dollars, or people? And so when you write your proposal, there'll be a section of it that will look like those terrible story problems that you see in school, where they're dividing the nuts and the paint and all those things. But you can make it simple, but make sure they are smart. So achievable. Can you actually do this in 1 year or 3 years? We need to know. And then relevant. Does the does the solution that you're offering solve the problem that you've described? And finally, the answer has to be time bound. When will the work be finished? So the grant will start on one date and conclude on another date. And you want to choose a project that you can actually begin and finish in the time allowed. This is the bad example. Just kind of fuzzy thinking, a vague idea. I want to use grant money to grow more black currants and sell them to the people in my town so the farm does better. That's very true. Somebody might actually have that goal, but for me, it doesn't really make it. Again, you want to be specific. What is my goal? Tell me about it. Measurable. How will I know? How will I be able to track your progress, and how will I know if you're going to your goal? It needs to be achievable, and then relevant, so that it is a good alignment with your overall plan. Sometimes the plan doesn't really fit with the solution, and there's sort of a disconnect. And I'll talk about that more in just a little bit. But time bound, give your goal a deadline. Here's a good example. The statement gives the who, what, when, where, and how much. And now I know and you know if you're going to your goal. By October 2026, I will harvest 500 pounds of rust-resistant black currants and sell them to 3 local bakeries in Williams, Arizona, increasing my farm's gross revenue by 15%. Now, if I want to look back later and see if you're going to your goal, I know how many pounds of currants you plan to harvest, where they're going to go, and how much money you're planning to increase your farm profits by. And I can really see, and you can really see, most importantly, when a reviewer reads a SMART objective, we feel safe. We know exactly what we are buying with the government's money or the nonprofit's money. If your application says, I'll try my best, and I know you will, but I can't accept that proposal no matter how much I love it. And if your application says, I will produce X amount by Y date, you are speaking the language of a professional. And that's something I can say yes to. And every dollar that you ask for in your budget should help you reach one of these measurable goals. And that's how the budget fits in. If you're buying a freezer, your objective should be to reduce crop spoilage by 20% within the first 6 months, and actually put those numbers in there. If you have to make a guess and a projection, you have to make a guess and a projection, but actually make one so we can say yes. You will notice I keep coming back to the call for the proposal all the time. Think of the call for proposals as an open book test. The government doesn't keep a grading key in secret. They publish it right in the document. And this is the scoring rubric. If you don't follow it, even if you are the best farm in Arizona, I can't give you a high grade. Grant applications have sections, and I really want to stress this to you. When there's a call for proposals, structure your time. Structure your time. Because what I see all the time is uh, an applicant starts out and does a great job on the first section, and then later they do the second section, and then they start to get tired, and you see the end of the proposal is not as good as the beginning. So be sure to structure your time so that you're not working in fatigue at the end, and give each section the same attention as if it were the only section, so you get the highest overall score possible. And I am looking to show you the big idea behind every proposal. So here is a common point distribution. This is a pretty typical application layout. You'll see each piece is interrelated. So be sure that each part is strong, because if one of these pieces is weak, it's going to hurt the other one when it's considered by the reviewer. Write for points. The points are added up and the score is what wins the day. So reviewers are often reading multiple applications in a grant review period, and we get tired. You need to make it easy for me to give you points. Use our headings. If the rubric says community impact, call your heading community impact. Put the information in the same order as it is in the call for proposals, and don't make me hunt for it. However, I will go out there and hunt for it. I sure will. Uh, Bold your key numbers when you mention your measurable results, like that 15% revenue increase. Bold the text. It draws the reviewer's eye to the right answer to make it easy for me. And then answer every question, even if you think, I just answered this question. It feels redundant. Leaving a section blank is an automatic 0 for those points, and you can lose those points. Reviewer as a partner. The reviewers are not people shutting the door. We would like to open the door. So we want you to win. Reviewers are rooting for good ideas. We are looking for projects that are technically sound and ready to hit the ground running. We value your sweat equity. As a reviewer, I am looking for the heart of a project, and I want to see that the farmer has a deep understanding of their land and their community. And we are looking for common ground. My job as a reviewer is to ensure the government's mission, like resiliency, matches your project. And I've seen this in almost every project that I've reviewed for. The deadline, don't let the spinning wheel, that little wheel that spins around when you're trying to upload something and it's not working. Don't let that kill your dream. In the grant world, 12:01 a.m. is a ghost town. There are no extensions when you have something going wrong at your farm, the broken tractor and the sick goat and the slow internet connection in rural Arizona. If you miss the upload window, your hours of work are worth 0. And if the grant is due on the 30th, your personal deadline should be something like the 16th, because stumps in grant writing are usually technical, not agricultural. And at the end, the 48-hour buffer, if you're having trouble and the deadline is there and things have happened to you, you want your application uploaded and accepted while the sun is still up and the help desks are still open. So if you are trying to upload at night and you have some kind of problem, there's nobody there who could help you get through. So you don't want to be at the very end like that. Structure your time. I have seen this so many times. Someone has worked for 60 hours on a beautiful project and their internet goes down in the storm at 11:50 p.m. If you aren't early, you're late. Finally, a grant is a contract to fulfill a public mission. Whatever your dream is and whatever it is that is calling out to you, you don't want to leave your best ideas in the dirt because the paperwork feels daunting. You are the expert that the government is looking for, really. And your community is waiting for you to provide that harvest that only you can provide. And, I'm just encouraging everybody to go out there and find your forbidden fruit, whatever it is. And it could be cattle or poultry or mushrooms or different specialty crops. And, whatever it is, I encourage you to find that grant that really could fix your farm and start writing toward that. Because, our lives go by, and sometimes we don't always pursue the things that really mean the most to us. And, this can really be your year when something changes on the farm for you and it's really meant for you. There is a grant out there for you. It could be mushrooms, little silky bantam eggs. It could be Wagyu beef. Whatever you are doing out there, there is a grant with your name on it. And there are so many inspiring ideas out there, and it's hard to choose and how to when we're looking at our own farms, we're almost looking in a mirror and seeing ourselves poured out on the land. And it can be hard to choose, but in every farmer there is a compass. And maybe wander through the farmers market and see what calls to you, and you will find your forbidden fruit out there. This is actually me and my big war horse, Big Ruth, on my farm in Arizona, wearing my corral pajamas. And these are two stubborn ones right here. So be stubborn about your dream and don't let it go. And if you have more questions about grant writing and your dream, email me and I would be glad to talk to you about your dream and about helping you take your dream and run with it. You are not alone out there, and there are really those of us who will help you get there and take your idea and run with it. And it is a great honor for me to talk to each of you today, and I'd like to open up our conversation for comments and questions.
Yeah. And Judith, as those questions come in here, I'll let everyone know you can come off mute and ask your questions directly. But we do have a question, Judith, from Kendra. Kendra would like to know a little bit more about the topic of sweat equity as a cost share. If you could speak a little bit more about that, maybe what that looks like in the context of writing a grant proposal for one that has a cost share uh, I don't know what to call it, a cost share requirement.
It is it is actually an in-kind contribution, it's called. It's kind of a non-intuitive word, but instead of giving money, you would be writing in when it comes to your share, you would be writing in that you will be contributing X number of hours, not just that you'll be helping out or that you'll be contributing your time. You would be writing in there exactly how many hours per week, whether that was full time or part time, what your contribution would be. And it's called an in kind contribution. And that's where those things like you'll be using your own tractor or you'll be contributing this research space.
And I'm going to follow up on that myself here as well. So, in a situation where there is a cost share requirement within a grant proposal, is it always the case that you can include in kind as the potential for the cost share, or is that sometimes does it have to be monetary?
You would for sure want to look into that call for proposals. That's that handshake between the funder and the applicant, where they will promise that they will accept certain things or they will spell out what you could do and what you could not do. And that is always the guiding document. Sometimes we're just trying to get through that part because it can seem like a lot of gobbledygook. And now there is a strong motion. One of the things that we were just talking about in our Western SARE on the Administrative Council is that we're being advised, and I'm giving the advice to make those calls for proposals user friendly with plain language. So instead of saying that the implementation of the project, should be like this, we're just going to say start the work to make them more user friendly because they can be a bit daunting. Um, but again, we are going to more plain language that will make it easier for applicants. But for sure, go through section by section and consult as you're writing. Go back and compare the application to the call for proposals and make sure that you understand what it is that is being asked of you, and then write to that in your application. That's a guiding document that you don't want to read up front and just kind of digest it and then wing it from there. You want to refer back to that, print it out, put it in front of you so you can use that, because that is in the end the thing that the reviewers are using is how closely does your project match the call for proposals.
Thank you, Judith. Want to open it back up here for questions as well. Or if you don't have a specific question, if you have experience, whether that was a challenge, difficulty, or a success in the topic of grant writing, we'd love to hear a little bit about that, to have that shared with other farmers and producers here today. So the floor is open for questions, either on video or in the chat.
I had a question, Judith, while people think about that. You mentioned a lot of different opportunities today, from Flagstaff Food Link, Grower Grants, Ag West, NRCS, Western SARE, of course, USDA. Of the grants listed today, I think, am I right in saying that it's the value added producer grant? That's one that's open right now that people can apply for. Are there others of those listed that are currently open that people can actively apply for? And then I guess an extended part of that question is because it seems like a lot of these things are open on a rotating basis. Is there a specific, maybe like email list that you recommend farmers be subscribed to know about these different opportunities that you shared?
You can certainly email me, and I am aware of many of these. But the reason that I didn't include the deadlines for them is due to the shutdown last year. The deadlines have moved all over the place now, so I didn't want to
Mhm.
put one out there and have it be inaccurate and have someone rely on it. But for sure, if you are looking for a specific grant, it might be easiest to email me and say, this is what my operation is like, and what do you recommend? Because I could really fit your exact operation, and I would be proud to do that and very, very happy to do that for you and help you fit your operation with a specific grant that I feel specifically your program would be most uh, valuable to.
Hmm. Okay.
So, Erica, to that point about finding grants, what I found really helpful is I sign up for a lot of newsletters for a lot of our local organizations. So, one of the really good ones is the U of A Extension Office has a really good newsletter, and there's a lot of resources on there every month. I've signed up like directly for the Department of Agriculture. They've got a grant writing newsletter type that they put out. Even local First Arizona has a lot of resources, and even our own like local USDA extension office. So I've signed up for like maybe 4 or 5 major newsletters that will send out a lot of those things. I like all the USDA newsletters. I think I've signed up for every single one. Just always just kind of keeping those vigilant, and just for visibility, there's a lot of information there.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that, Avril. And I
Mhm.
I jotted down the U of A newsletter. There was one that I missed it between U of A and Local First.
The USDA, and then also our
Mhm.
own local, what do you call it, Arizona Department of Agriculture.
Oh, right. Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah, those are like my top four that I get information on for any kind of grants that are coming up. Yeah. And then in terms of just even
That is
grants,
excellent advice.
yeah, newsletters are great. Like, I mean, you'd be surprised. Even like a non like direct grant opportunities. There's like if you're looking for land, like the people post so many different things, especially the U of A newsletter. There's a lot of good resources in there, and trainings and all of that. I've learned a lot. In fact, that training that I went to for Weston Sayre when I met Judith in person was through U of A Extension Office newsletter. So really good resource. Yeah. And then the other thing too with grant writing that I've learned along the way, because we've just recently been successful getting 2 grants recently, which was like completely blew me away. It's just always trying to carve out the time to apply, even if you think it's a long shot, just do it. Because like the 2 grants that we got, we had initially been told no. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll keep trying. And then out of nowhere, there was additional funding for each one of those. And then we got reconsidered. And so I'm just like, holy cow. So a no is never a no. It's not never a final no. You never know. Like you literally could put in a grant, get turned down, and a couple months later be pleasantly surprised that funding has shifted, someone couldn't fulfill their grant, and as long as you're in on the list, you could be considered later on. So that's pretty cool.
Awesome. That's so exciting to hear. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes,
Yeah, I'm super, super.
congratulations. I'm so proud of you.
Yeah, thank you. And yeah, all of those points that Judith made are really pertinent, like the specific, like being really specific and drawing that line from how this equipment will help you and the community. I think with grants, even though they're individually granted to one farmer, if you can show like that it'll have a community impact or just any kind of impact beyond just your own operation is usually helpful. And yeah, that I think that's what I've discovered is like trying to make sure you can really paint the picture or tell your story of how this is going to impact you, and if there's any other community benefit, how that's going to help out as well.
Thanks for that, Avril. That's awesome. I do want to make a note here as well in the chat. Kendra has dropped an additional resource for newsletters. Pinnacle Prevention is an organization that does kind of wide-ranging work, but Kendra has suggested signing up for Pinnacle Prevention's newsletters as well. And I do just want to let people know that these resources that are being shared now and that were shared earlier by Judith, we will make sure to share those in our follow-up email early next week that I mentioned earlier in the chat. And Kendra has also asked if you would tell us a little bit more about how grants view partnerships. Is partnership a must to be a strong candidate? And if so, what kind of arrangements and qualities would reviewers value in partnerships, Judith?
I have to tell you that as a reviewer, the very first thing that I look at when I crack open a new proposal is the section for letters of support. And I am looking to see who your friends are and who has your back when the hailstorm hits. And am really looking for the milieu in which the producer exists. So who are your partners and collaborators? And we would really look more fondly upon a proposal that had some partners in it, because again, we know that the money is not just going to the individual farm, but is spreading that benefit across the community. So not only for your operation, but also for your neighbor's operation, making an even bigger impact. We look for the largeness of impact. We want to get the most impact out there for the dollars that we have. And so if you have somebody that you could partner with, be sure that they are in there with a clear letter of support that's, not a form letter. We do get those, and proposals do not go down in flames because they have form letters of support. But we are really impressed by a heartfelt letter from another partner. And we really like to see multiple people applying together in the Western Sayre producer, the Farmer Rancher grant. We do see 3 producers teaming up together, and that can be very powerful. Not that there are many grants where you could come in by yourself, but we are always looking for being powerful within the community, and the more producers that you can get together with you, that would be even better.
Thank you, Judith. A huge thank you to Judith for joining us today. I know that in your many roles and the many hats you wear, you're extremely busy, and we certainly appreciate not only your contribution to the series today, but also your willingness to offer your support directly to the people that are here in terms of finding those grant opportunities, creating those proposals that will be moving to reviewers from the perspective of a reviewer. So Judith, thank you so much for joining us today.